I saw a meme like maybe 2 years ago, and it was like something along the lines of like history doesn't change, it simply like repeats itself. And it was
Yeah.
a pacifier, like a baby's soother, and a Lost Mary vape. And then seeing that comparison when I like saw people in my life that were like aggressive vapors, like people that basically are like it's in their hands at all times, it really was a self-soothing mechanism for them to
Absolutely.
Yeah.
to deal with like the stress of parenthood or the stress of like whatever industry they were working in. And that's why I like joke that like you're raw dogging life
Yeah.
by not indulging in like what alcohol, it like depending on who you are, it's poison or it's pleasure, but it does relax the nervous system a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
It
Right.
soothes the spirit, calms you down before it like makes you make really big bad decisions.
Back in the basement, it's hip replacement almost 30. Guys, this is hip replacement number 29. Kyle, we're here with Melissa Eshaghbeigi. Did I manage that okay?
It was better than when Kyle did it.
Yeah, it
So
was better than when I practiced
Whoa,
it.
okay. I'm
Well
gonna put Kyle
done.
on blast here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
immediately on blast.
Woo.
Hey, we aim to
So
please.
who is a cultural anthropologist calling us in from London. But beyond that, I don't know anything about Melissa. Kyle, tell us more, please.
Okay, well, but I will also give flame back. Digital ethnographer. Digital
Oh, wait, is that what I said?
I
ethnographer.
mean,
I said cultural ethnographer.
yeah,
So
you know
it's the
what?
same thing. Digital is
Potato,
culture, man.
potato, tomato.
Sure,
I
fair,
feel
fair,
like
fair.
we understood where he was
Okay.
going with it.
We had, okay,
See?
good.
Fine.
I had to
Fine.
correct the record. No, anyway.
I'm just trying to
Digital
let I'm
ethnographer.
trying to let Melissa spread her wings here. Come on.
Yeah, fair. Hey. And strategist. We're all adding to that strategist and also
Fine.
writer
Fine.
of
Fair enough.
Closing My Tabs. So Mel and I, funny story, funny. I mean, not really, not that funny, but Ariana, friend of the show, who's been on the show, and
Sure.
Mel are. I'm probably gonna butcher this. Are quote unquote digital roommates? Is that what you
Yeah,
call it?
yeah.
Okay,
Which
please explain. What does that mean?
So we used to work together like a decade ago, but like even then we were ships in the night. And then as young people in their early 20s do, became Instagram friends. And then like fast forward 5 years later, the pandemic hit, and that actually created a new layer of intimacy where we were constantly talking on Instagram, even though in person we weren't as close. And then over the years, like I moved to London and she moved to Barcelona. And so having a homie both from where you're from that shares the same interests on the same time zone like escalated that intimacy. And so we like jokingly call each other digital roommates. We're
I
like
love that.
we talk every day. If we don't, there's like a podcast episode that we send each other as a voice note. It's like, this is my life in the last month. What was your life
Oh
like?
wow.
Yeah.
Love
That's
that.
cool.
I need
That's
it.
cool.
I need that.
Well, it's a sort of it's an interesting sorry to jump straight into it, but it's an interesting thing, as a sort of generational examination. I was thinking yesterday, so unless you don't know this, Kyle probably does. Series producer Campbell hopefully knows this. But my wife and I have been together for coming up on 27 years. And I was having Campbell is off at college. His sister Harper is a junior in high school, and we were talking about colleges last night. And I was thinking what the empty nest for the two of us is going to be like. And I was just thinking, sort of thinking like the conversations that I end up having with my wife every day about nothing in particular are so fundamental to the way that I experience the world that for I was thinking about not what it would be like to not have that or whatever the case would be. And it made me wonder what people who don't have these kind of firm,
Hmm.
like civil partnerships experience. What you're describing is something like that, except on a purely platonic and at a distance kind of level.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Is that a
maybe a
you
bit
thing? Is that a
romantic
generational thing?
too.
Like what is that?
Yeah.
I think Ariana and I are both so very online, and
Got it.
in a way, I think we've always just spoken the same language in rooms where people didn't understand us. And so it was just nice to have it's exactly as you described it. Like it's a social connection that just exists differently because of the structure of where she physically is and where I physically am. Uh, but like it's one of my lifelines. Before the like during the pandemic, post pandemic, like being an expat in a new place, I think like I jokingly I sent her a voice note the other day and I was like I posted on Slack asking like all the strategists in my network what they thought about JW Anderson for Dior. Crickets. Like no one had any opinion and I was like aren't we
Ariana
Really?
supposed to
Ariana told us that story yesterday. I saw her
Did
yesterday, and
you
she told that story on your behalf.
wait? Did you? Okay, so I'm curious about that. Did you say strategist in my network? Does anyone have any opinions, or did you say does anybody have any opinions, or is your
it
network
was for
exclusively strategist?
it was the EMEA Slack channel for our agency where like all the
Okay.
strategists are. And maybe this ties to what we're talking about, but like the Slack culture where I work right now is very different from my online behaviors where like I'm constantly in dialogue, exchanging links and videos and whatnot. If I was to post, hey, I need a case study with like a consumer journey, like I get instant replies. And maybe like the fashion girlies aren't in EMEA in the strat team. Like maybe like they're a different
Uh,
department.
fair.
But Ariana is someone that I could send a random screenshot of and be like, is this an insight?
Right.
At
Right.
all times
Sure.
of day. And like it's just helpful that like like she sometimes I don't even understand what I'm sending
Right.
her, but the conversation helps me understand what it is
Okay.
we're witnessing.
All right. So to that end, does the deployment of tri-corner pirate style hats signal a new kind of desire for protection from the psychological elements of a repressive
Hmm.
culture coming into the world globally?
Could you say that in other words?
Yeah.
I don't
Is it
know
a
if I
tinfoil
followed.
hat?
The J.W.
Yeah,
Anderson show for Dior
yeah.
hat featured
Uh-huh.
hats that were made
Uh-huh.
by Simon Miller, I think, that were they were like tricorner pirate hats.
Uh-huh.
They looked
Okay.
like sort of swooping bat wings, but they totally covered the head and obscured the face in part. And I mean, they're ridiculous, but I also was just like, does this signal some sort of like desire to be protected from not just the elements, but like from the X-rays and just the sense of the repressive world
It's
coming down on
Yeah.
lined
us.
with
I think
tin on the inside.
I
That's what I
think
Well,
like
I
heard.
mean, I don't know that they
maybe
were aligned with tin, but maybe they were. Yeah.
Right.
maybe it's a signal, but like what I know about JW Anderson and Dior, that feels like a bit of a stretch. Like I think like his whole bit is
Fair.
like cultural iconography, repetition, homage to like the heritage of the maison. And based on what you just described, don't feel like it fits in what I understand about Dior and their history, but
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
never
I'm
know.
unaware of Christian Dior as a pirate either, but it did seem to
We
be
never know.
there
He
were
could have
some
had a lush
suggestions, or
life.
as a conspiracist, or
Yeah.
as a conspiracist. Okay, well, let me then. So to that end, let's dive straight into the other sort of Gen X reflection here, which is
Hmm.
around a movie that Kyle wanted to talk a lot about, which
Yeah.
heavily involved in the tinfoil hattery,
Hmm.
Yes.
which is one battle after another. Paul Thomas Anderson's one battle after another. I saw it on Friday in a cute little theater in Greenpoint. I was the only person in the theater, which was kind of
Really?
amazing. Yeah, it was a weird
Wow.
like off hours matinee, and I was the literally
Okay.
the only person in the theater, which was I got to laugh at all of the parts you're not supposed to laugh at. Um, which my wife hates when I do. So I'm curious, what did you see it?
I
Melissa, have
haven't
you seen
seen
it?
it.
Damn.
No.
Okay.
So
Still.
it was just released in the UK at the end of September.
Ah.
So
Okay.
movies come out later here.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, then, Kyle, you've seen it. So, give us your read
I've
in because
yes, and I also had
there are some echoes, shall we
there
say,
are
of
a
the
lot
present
of echoes.
situation.
Well, I was gonna say like really quickly, I too had a very interesting viewing experience because I thought I booked the viewing in English, but we got there and it was in Spanish. And it was an experience of, challenging my Spanish comprehension, and I understood 90% of it. I laughed at jokes. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. but I also had a unique viewing experience. That being said, so the movie and why I wanted to sort of talk about it is like it's a lot about sort of like what makes a revolutionary, let's say. The person who is, in America at least, the tricorner hat is sort of associated with the sort of revolutionaries, that sort of thing.
Oh, nice
And
callback.
thank you. The movie
Uh,
is sort of musing about what makes a revolutionary, what makes a good revolutionary, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a sort of tension ish, and I don't think this is giving away anything of like, how the generations and how different cultures sort of manifest that. And even gender, like how is there a right or wrong way to do it? One of the core tensions is like, is the way that certain women in the movie are sort of being a revolutionary right or wrong? And like I think another core one is sort of like Gen X and how they are sort of like, creating change in a sort of like very extreme version of it. And like it's a fascinating movie. I think everybody should definitely watch it because it does say a lot about these times. Like the thing that I keep thinking about is like not that no one is doing what they do in the movie, but like the what the revolutionaries in the movie do because they're more left-wing revolutionaries. What they're doing in the movie, like that's not happening. Like maybe I'm crazy and maybe I'm out of it, but I'm like that's
okay,
the
so
right-wing fantasy to me is like
all
I
right.
feel like my dad would watch it and be like, "Oh, that's what the Antifa is doing." I'm like, "No. Come on. Be real."
It's funny. I had a conversation with my father about Antifa, and I was like, I don't think Antifa's a thing, actually.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? But by the same token, the French 75 of the film does give off, major Antifa vibes, and the um, repressive governmental force, as embodied by Colonel Lockjaw, does certainly give off Trumpian, Pete
Oh yeah.
Hegsетhian, like conspiracy, like power for the sake of power. The Christmas adventures obviously are a conspiracy for the sake of like
I was like, "Give it 2 years
conspiracy.
and all of that it will become a non-fictional movie. It'll become a documentary."
Well, I think but the argument also is that
Whoa.
I mean
Right.
this is based on Pynchon's book Vineland, which was written in 1990 about essentially like weather underground types, which is circa 1968, 69, who have gone on to become like pot farmers in Northern California and Humboldt and so on and so forth. So
Hmm.
it's loosely based on that book, but I mean it's telling the story of 1968 to 1990, not
Right.
2000 to 2025, but it echoes almost identically. And so you could make the argument that yet maybe it's true in 2 years, or maybe it has been true for
Well,
40. I
that's it.
started.
Hey, the title of the
So
movie.
so I s- well, so interesting. Sorry, I'm going to do a little more talking here, as if anybody needs that. I started in getting ready to read Shadow Ticket, Pynchon's new book, which comes out today as you're listening to this, loyal hip replacement audience members. Um, I started reading Henry Miller's Tropic of Capricorn over the weekend. Have either of you ever read Tropic of Capricorn?
No, I know it, but I
No.
haven't read it.
So Tropic of Capricorn, which is famously banned for being lewd, um, is a sort of stream of consciousness, as the cover says, Jeremiad, about this guy, autofictionally Henry V. Miller. And it is, I mean, it's sort of a fun read because it's just like the guy just spouts for hundreds of pages at a time. But it is full of the most vile, like racism, anti-Semitism, misogyny, um, classism, all of which is presented as just very normal and like sort of unremarkable. And it's interesting because you're just sort of like, all right, well, this book was written and released 15 years before I was born. It's not that
Mm,
far removed
right.
at all, right? And so you start to look at one battle after another as being like, all right, yeah, on the one hand, it maybe reveals what is coming, and on the other hand, it's like
Right.
it's maybe just shining a light on what has already been there. All right, I'm going to stop my rant now.
No,
Go.
Rance, this is a safe space. You're welcome to.
That's a that was the very, very millennial Gen Z thing to say, Melissa, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, I try to straddle both generations, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, Kyle, did you like the movie, even in
I
Spanish and Espanol?
Yes, see, I did like it a lot.
Okay.
The other thing, like it to me is like it is of a kind of the reason why I really wanted to see it. And, like, I'm not a theater person. I'm very much someone who like enjoys watching at home. That sounds insane, but whatever. Um, but like I really wanted to see because people were drawing connections to Eddington, and I thought Eddington was like a really sort of like crucial piece of cinema of this decade. And I think it's a really like definitive piece. I mean, did everybody see that one?
I have not seen
Okay.
that one yet, so
Oh, oh,
I'm
it's
got to catch up on that one. But
oh, it's great.
I've talked about this being a double feature
Yeah,
with Francis last week. Yeah.
it definitely is that. And like I think something which, so maybe we can switch. So then, Mel, you can weigh in on it. Is that like it sort of is getting at sort of on one hand, just like one battle after another, like it sort of is critiquing all parties involved in a way. Obviously, some more than others. Eddington is really equal opportunity, like critiquing everybody, but it
Hmm.
gets at sort of reading the temperature of this moment as far as conspiracy, as far as like relationships to power, as far as relationships to violence, and sort of like what needs to be done to create change, and sort of like the walls that are being built and taken down at the same time. It's fascinating. Mel, I'm sort of curious about your take on it as a sort of reflection of the now and about generations, because that movie is really wears the generationalism a bit more forwardly, if that makes sense. What do you think?
Well,
Well, I also
but
can, and no, before you respond, I also want to add one more dimension to this, is which is I am fascinated as someone who is sitting in America to hear an
Right,
American expat's point of view on this. I mean, we've gotten one American
right.
expat's point of view from Kyle, but I'm interested in from the UK on yours as well.
Well, I have a confession. I'm Canadian.
Damn it.
So a
All
Canadian
right,
expat
North
in the UK.
American then. North
Yeah, I
American.
mean, although
Sorry.
like we finally developed a backbone this year and like
Yeah,
have
I
a
was
bit
gonna
of a
say,
national identity.
Right.
well,
Like
forgive me for impugning you in that case.
no, it's
And
okay.
please go
I
ahead.
I sound American. Like I hear myself when I speak. This is the result of watching TV so much as a kid that it sounds
True.
like I grew up in the valley. But before I answer your question, Kyle, I guess like for the PTA film, is there a clear hero? And I ask this because for our holiday party this year, we're pitching around themes, and I was like, you know what? Our department thrives on a theme that loves attention. So like, why don't we do heroes and villains?
Mm-hmm.
And without
Hmm.
Googling or using I was trying to think of like, what is a cultural hero in 2025?
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of one.
Well,
Really?
Superman. That's it.
Like, just Superman. He's not
I think,
canceled.
well, fair. One battle after another, there are some clear heroes. I think it depends on your point of view on it, but like there are like in the French 75, which is like the left wing group, like there are people in that group you could probably pick at any of them and call them a hero. So like I
Hmm.
think people would probably do that. Ben, do you disagree?
Well, I mean, certainly, and it's on the package. Perfidia Beverly Hills,
Right.
who is the sort of, on the one hand, the totemic figurehead of French 75, and then, later becomes kind of a heel. I mean, anybody named Perfidia, you would expect her to become a
Right.
liar. And yeah, at some point, this is Pinchon. I mean,
Fair.
Pynchon is so funny in that way. But in any case, she acts in very non-heroic ways. And so I would just, I want to qualify it that way. And I think the French 75, generally speak, I think Jungle Pussy theoretically is also non-heroic. I think, Ghetto Pat,
Yeah.
aka Bob Ferguson, is so out of it that like he's accidentally heroic. But in any case, it's kind of neither here nor there. I think Kyle's right. Like the thing that's interesting about the film is that it is an examination of the various stages of heroicism and anti-heroicism.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because like listening to you both talk about this movie, and maybe less in regards to Eddington, I feel like depending on the audience, a hero can be a villain and a villain can be a hero,
Absolutely.
right? And
100%.
so like, and this like ties to kind of some of the other things that like we were going to talk about today with Gen Z protesting in Nepal, where I feel like at large culturally we've like lost things to unify us, and like we're just
Hmm.
basically so divisive, and like we force ourselves on these polar opposite sides of the spectrum and can't listen to another person speak because there's nothing really like holding us together anymore.
Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
the other thing that's interesting, right? I'm reminded a little bit of a Instagram post I saw this morning, which was um, uh, uh, ironically written, possibly cynically written. It said the Battle of Voodoo Donuts continues, and it's pictures of National Guardsmen in Portland standing in front of Voodoo Donuts,
My
which is
God.
a like pyrotechnic donut shop. It's like every dumb flavor of donuts you can imagine comes from there. And it's sort of like again, I had a conversation with my father last week, who is a member of the silent generation, while we're getting into it.
And
Um,
he's in
but
California, just for context,
he's in
right?
California, he's in the
Okay.
desert in California. Incidentally, where the in the town where the one of the final scenes in One Battle and Another was filmed. Um, but in any case, he's sort of like, he's like, yeah, Portland is a disaster from what I've heard. And it's like, no, no, no. Like, my friends in Portland are sending me pictures of them at the skate park with their little kids. Like,
Right.
Portland is not a disaster at all, except in this one little pocket, whatever. The One Battle After Another is a reminder, as are all of these things, that so much of this comes down to individual perspective and individual incentive, right? One Battle Another, the whole thing happens because Lockjaw is trying to clean up a mess. The whole
Hmm.
thing happens because of that, right? and
Yeah.
and and we are it's a constant reminder that like our little bubbles determine so much of what
Hmm.
happens, right?
And
Hmm.
that is exactly why you need to watch Eddington, because it's not exactly the same thing, but like
Yeah,
there is that sort of
sure.
like, it's even more exaggerated. Like it's truly like it's about the bubbles, quite literally and metaphorically, because it takes place in like 2020. Um, yeah, it's something I think about a lot, is like, movies take a long time to make. Like those movies like probably took years to make. Like they probably got started in 2022, if not earlier, and came out right on time. Like Eddington, I think, was obviously a bit more of the moment, and like, even to the point of it being of One Battle After Another being based on a book that's old, just as nearly as old as I am. Like, so I think speaks a lot to, yeah, to just sort of hitting at a moment where we needed to hear it. And I'm surprised that a movie like Eddington had a sibling, because it seems so singular, and it's kind of refreshing that it's not. I don't know.
Hmm.
What do
Well,
you
it,
think,
it,
Mel?
it makes
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, please, Mel, chime in. I was going to say it makes you hope that there is a sort of a gestalt around this stuff that
absolutely.
tries to shine a light, at the very least raise these questions, right,
Hmm.
in a thoughtful way.
Well, I think like two movies being in a similar territory, that's like a signal, like it, right?
True.
It's an appetite for more energy towards certain aspects of the conversation. I think also like film, like I don't use the word content in like the modern sense, but content in the sense of like something that you go to pursue, like you pursue to consume.
Hmm.
That has always been, as humans, the way that we empathize, like have a bit more empathy for stories or experiences that aren't directly ours, that are like windows into other people's worlds. Like I think a lot of Oliver Twist, right? Like that is a children's
Right.
book that taught people about socioeconomic disparity. And so it's great that these films are coming out. And I think that like if these big directors and actors are attaching their names to it, that also signifies that there's like a cultural shift, that more people
Hmm.
want the medium, the nutrients for, so to speak. Like we'll see more and more of this stuff.
Hmm.
I'm curious though, like how many people that are younger than us are watching both of these movies.
Well, I was gonna say to that is that like I agree 100%. Like, it is a signal of an appetite, but it also is like double-edged sword. I don't think is a right sort of metaphor for it, but like it's to me, the critiques in both the movies are fairly clear, and obviously to the point of what we talked about both of them, is that like there are different ways of reading it. But I've seen, like, for Eddington, for example, I've seen so many sort of reviews or takes that sort of have said just like, Ari Aster, the director, hates young people. And like, this is such a critique of like young leftists. And it's like, I did not get that at all. Like, I can see that being a view of it, but like, it is a sort of like critique of how all of these groups are interacting and all of these bubbles and silos.
Hmm.
And like, that to me, I think is like, it's funny that you mentioned like, are younger people watching? I think the younger people who watch it, a lot of them felt attacked, which I think speaks more to age more than
Hmm.
anything else. Like, I think it was more like I
Mm.
saw a bit of a mirror and like it made me look ugly. And so now I hate that. But like that, I do not think that like the intention of the way that younger people come across in the movie is for them to look bad. No, I think it is quite the contrary. But like it's interesting when you put it that way, Mel, because it like, yeah, what do young people have to say about this? And I think that they're
Well, I
yeah,
also think like we've kind of put ourselves in this like spot in culture where everyone just feels like they are being attacked.
right.
Like
Well,
you
that's true.
either
Thousand
you
percent.
either see yourself in the thing that you're watching, listening to, consuming, or you feel like it's directly attacking you. And I don't have a theory as to why exactly that's happening. Probably like it ties to the fact that like we don't spend time with people
Yeah,
that aren't like us anymore.
digital paranoia. Yeah, yeah. Digital homogeny,
Like
real homogeny.
so a lot of like interesting things happening with it, you know?
Right.
You just
Yeah.
need to I
Yeah.
need to see the film, the first film
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, it does um yeah, and I need to see Eddington. Uh, clearly, I was waiting for it to come to streaming, but maybe I'll just buy it off the
I think it's on
iTunes
streaming.
thing.
Well, no, no, no.
It's
You
a
can
bit,
rent
yeah.
it.
You have to rent it as like a one-time thing as opposed to it just being available on streaming right now,
I
I think.
I'll buy it
But
for
either
you.
way,
That's
no,
sweet.
you don't need to, Kyle. I'll do it. Thank you very much, very much. I'm still drinking my way through the birthday presents. So
Okay.
let's
Okay.
get. It's speaking of which, sober October in full swing, guys. Let's go. Um,
Stay strong.
what I was going to say though was that
6 days in.
I think this is the
No.
hardest part. I was saying this to somebody over the weekend. I'm just like, days 4 through 7 are the
Yeah.
worst because first 3 days you feel good, and then day
Yeah,
four
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, why am I doing this again? Like, I don't like this. This isn't
It's good
fun.
for you.
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose. I mean, I do it twice a year every year, so might as well.
I do
Anyway,
think like raw dogging life in this cultural moment is very brave of you.
Yes. I know a few people who are doing that. It's a thing.
yeah, that's actually it's. I'm really glad you said that, Mel, because like the idea of not indulging in little treats all the time as raw dogging life is a kind of a crazy conception to me.
Right.
You know what I
There's
mean? But
there's this
Yeah.
one.
I actually think it's very representative of the way many people look at things, right? They
Yeah.
they're like, I've got to have my little treats, whatever they are, to get me through life, and if I don't have them, then I'm showing fortitude. It's just like, oh, anyway.
Well, no, well, there's okay. There's a couple of things. There's a couple of things. Like the
Yeah.
first is like in London, Lost Mary vapes are very popular. Do y'all have that in the
Are they the
States? They're just
little colorful
like
ones?
candy colored. They look like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah, yeah.
Tamagotchi that you put in your
Yeah, yeah,
mouth.
yeah.
It's like an ombre gradient. It's disgusting.
And I'm unfamiliar. Is lost? I mean, I'm obviously familiar with vapes, but that's a brand of vapes, or
It's
that's a
it's a
kind of.
brand. It's a
Okay,
brand. They're very candy colored, very like
Yeah.
got it.
flavor
Okay,
oriented.
It's
So like
like
and it's
mango.
lost as in like not here, and
Y-
Mary as in the name.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
It's like peak branding in terms
Okay,
yeah.
of like as far as you can get. And I saw a meme like maybe 2 years ago, and it was like something along the lines of like history doesn't change, it simply like repeats itself. And it was
yeah,
a pacifier, like a baby's soother, and a Lost Mary vape. And then seeing that comparison when I like saw people in my life that were like aggressive vapors, like people that basically are like it's in their hands at all times, it really was a self-soothing mechanism for them to
yeah.
Absolutely.
to deal with like the stress of parenthood or the stress of like whatever industry they were working in. And that's why I like joke that like you're raw dogging life
Yeah.
by not indulging in like what alcohol it like depending on who you are, it's poison or it's pleasure, but it does relax the nervous system a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
It
Right.
soothes the spirit, calms you down before it like makes you make really big bad decisions, depending on who you are, what your vice is, so on and so forth. So I admire this like almost brutalist approach to the modern condition, Ben. Because I'm like
Yeah, I mean, and I will, I appreciate and accept your admiration. By the same token, the terms in which you couch it are is just to me is sort of like it's foreign, right? And so it's interesting in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
like, can you remember the last time that you just sat on public transportation and didn't listen to music or a podcast? That's raw dogging life.
I do
yeah, it's
that.
not. I mean, that's what I guess I'm getting at, though. Like, it's not at all,
Right.
right?
It's
Like,
just life.
as a for instance, right? Was reading this book last night, and I was thinking, oh, I should put on some Glenn Gould in the background, and Glenn Gould playing Bach will aid my cognition, um, unconsciously. And I was like, nah, I don't need any music. I'll just read. So does that mean I'm raw dogging life, like reading a
No,
book
because
without
you were
music?
reading. But if you were like starfished in your bed thinking about like the most existential aspect of being a human, that's raw dogging life.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
I mean, and also these are all rules I'm making up on the spot.
No, no, but I don't. But I guess this is the whole thing, Mel. I mean, to my mind, and this is why it's an interesting conversation as far as I'm concerned. Like, on the one hand, yes, you are creating your own distinctions extemporaneously in this conversation. On the other hand, I feel like there are a lot of people who, by nature or by affect, have been encouraged to think in those terms, and I find it
Yeah.
odd that they find sort of sucker in it, because it just seems weird to me. Like,
Well, I
no,
was gonna
not
say
even
like
weird.
it's
It doesn't seem qualified to me in that
Mhm.
way.
well fair, but I feel it's the thing that like is interesting now, and especially with tech, and I feel like this has become a more of a thing as far as the raw dogging culture, is like it is it's a test of modern strength and temptation, which is like there's like it's this cult is this signal, if we want to use that phrase, that keeps coming around like on TikTok, where I will see this is an age old trope, but like seeing it now, it's a little bit off putting. It's like the internet of a kind, or gesture of like try not to laugh videos, which is as old as YouTube is. But seeing them now in the relationship to like certain like audios on TikTok, I see this trend was going around like a month or so ago, and it's off-putting because it's just sort of like I'm denying myself this pleasure. I'm denying myself like th- the laugh today during hard times, and like that is sort of like playing into this bigger picture of like I have become so disassociated from my life that I need to sort of like raw dog, because like I need to sort of feel again, because like I've sort of become so numb because of the Lost Mary, maybe because of alcohol, maybe because of not that, but like spending so much time on TikTok, like all these sort of things create that. And then like now with actually like political forces, I think it's gonna like shift where probably the language is gonna change. So I think it's just gonna become your normal again. Or like you are like it's not gonna be as political, if that makes sense. Perhaps.
Yeah, I hope so, because I mean, to my mind, there's nothing political about I mean, there's
Right.
it's political even raises it to a level of stakes that's too high. There's nothing particularly remarkable about this, and the more I make a big deal about it and I get feedback like you're raw dogging life back, the more it sort of like falsely elevates it to a kind of import that it shouldn't have. And
Totally.
and but then again, maybe that's because I'm 50 years old and crotchety and have seen these cycles a bunch of times, and I'm just like, shut up,
That's what I was gonna
or maybe
say, but
not.
it's
I don't. I'm just trying to figure that out.
I don't think it's as much of the sort of like crotchetiness. I think it's just like you have lived long enough where that's normal. And I think for a lot of
Yeah.
people, it's abnormal to do what you're doing, which is where the raw dogging thing comes in. So like it becomes aspirational. I'm like, what? That's not why you do it. Obviously, it's for health. It's for myriad other reasons. But like for people who, let's for example, like if you work in social media, like you can't lie, and like you have to sort of stare at the violence and the shit all day, and like that then becomes like a longing to do that. Like that's why you had that whole trend in the 2010s of like digital detox and whatever, which would not be surprised if that comes back as a concierge service to kick yourself off of social platforms.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, actually, because there was a story in the FT over the weekend about how it was asking the question, have we reached peak social media? And it noted that by time spent globally, social media usage has been dropping steadily since 2022, everywhere but the US. And um, I wonder to what extent you two, particularly as let's call it North American expats elsewhere in the world, are noticing any sort of like palpable change, um, or not, and whether or not, like the social media time just gets sort of measured through a different lens.
Like personally, I'm going through a change. Like I've actually been consuming Kyle's work for quite a long time. So it's quite an honor to like know him now and like be able to text him random stuff. But when we met, it was maybe 6 months into me being not chronically offline, but healing my chronically onlineness, where for the last decade, this has been both my profession and my personality. And
Right.
2 years ago, it lines up with that 2022 stat. I just couldn't care anymore.
Right.
Like the excitement that I got from seeing what other people were consuming online and going through a comment section, it just started kind of getting like more and more dulled and more draining to be online. And I'm part of my like resurgence of writing again is trying to figure out, what do I want from this? Like it used to be a value exchange where I'd go on my phone and
Hmm.
I'd laugh or I'd be connected with people. But now this little black box, it just like I want nothing to do with it. Like I'm so out of touch with so many trends, and it's actually freeing. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening, and you know what, it's and I'm still okay. I'm still employed. I still have an opinion on culture, but like I'm not consuming every viral sound, niche subreddit. Like it, I think it's part of like a healing mindset. This is me raw talking like
I mean,
Yeah. All
that's
right. Fair enough.
inspiring. I definitely look. I had
Well,
like a
my
mild.
bank account didn't agree with it, but I just like I couldn't be pressed. Like I think at some point in the last 4 years I got off Twitter. That was a big deal for me. I was on it since 2008. It was like one of my favorite
Wow.
corners of the internet. But I and you know what? It didn't even feel grief. I deleted it, and then it was all of a sudden like I just had like more room for another corner of the internet. um, I haven't finished listening to it, but I was listening to this Tim Berners-Lee interview, like the founding father of the World Wide Web. And in his
Well, he's
latest
been
book,
on a, he's oh, is that because he's got a latest book? I was going to say he's
he's
been
got a book.
everywhere in the last
Ah.
week.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
got
yeah.
it.
He's
Okay.
yeah. Why does anyone go on a podcast? They've got
Well,
so many stuff.
yeah, I've merely taken stock of his name popping up. I didn't look into why.
But he's talking about like good internet versus bad internet, and I still have skin in the game in terms of like studying internet culture because it's such a huge part of our existence now. And
Right.
because when I was 18, I got a Wi-Fi tattoo, and I just feel like I have to own this decision that I've made that
Incredible.
like live, breathe, die online.
You don't want to just
Um,
tell people it says wifey and then to have
no,
it.
it's a full bar Wi-Fi. So the people are always like, "What happens when like Wi-Fi is not a thing?" And I was like, "Then it's an artifact."
Wi-Fi will
Uh,
never not be a
True.
thing. Full
Also
clue.
true too.
yeah, but I guess like my point in like this like brain exploration stream of consciousness is like I do think we're at an inflection point where like our relationship with the internet and social media is changing, and that there's always going to be like very radical active fandom groups or political parties, but we also as like strategists and creatives and people who produce things on the internet, we're contributing to that
Hmm.
universe. And so I always just want to encourage whoever's publishing or posting something, just make something that's meaningful to you. Like that's all that like really needs to be done. Like there's always going to be people who disagree with it and there's going to be people who like it. But like maybe this is like the revolutionary era of the internet where um we can actively change or like redefine the role it plays in our lives. Who
I
knows?
th- I think that's exactly what's happening now, and I think like the 2022 stat of like things crashing, like it sort of it aligns with like, let's say, like people getting back offline because you were sort of stuck in the house for 2 years, a lot of people in a lot of parts of the world because of COVID. And then like it was like, oh, I'm free, like I can actually like connect. I remember that being a big
Yeah.
conversation that summer, was like, how are we as digital marketers, I was at the time I was working in an agency, how are we going to reach people, and like, is this going to affect our numbers, whatever. And like it wasn't too big. But like now I think that the sort of like the reasons why people were getting offline in 2022 have become more and more pronounced over the years. And I think this year and this summer in particular really pushed that into overdrive, because like now it sort of has become really obvious this year. And I think if people aren't seeing this, and they're sort of, have been, thankfully good for them, denied of this, but like tech has become the central villain for a lot of people. And that has also enabled this sort of like, that with AI as well, has made people be like, well, this is just, it's not as rewarding, it's not as fun. Like the thing in that article that was really sort of like really jumped out to me was that like the people who are still using it, like of all the people using it, the use cases of connecting or with your friends and with your community are like gone. The only reason why people are using it is because to like watch celebrities, and then like think it was just like get updates on news or whatever, vaguely. But like the celebrity thing was the biggest thing. So like in
Hmm.
a way it just became the television, which is what it always wanted to be. And as a result of that, it's just like, it's not as fun. Like the point of social media was to be social, and now that it's less social, and it sort of puts you in a space where like now, like because of Sora 2, like anytime I'm on TikTok, which is a lot, I have to consciously, anytime I watch a video that's not verified, be like, is this real? Because like
Mm.
I've already gotten duped multiple times in the past few days. And like there's going to be
Well,
a point where like something goes in the trend report, and someone's gonna be like, that's fake, and like I'm going to look like an idiot. But like that's all of us now, which is why people are also probably going to get off as well.
I guess this is the question to me. It's like, in your respective opinions, does the introduction of, or the proliferation of videos via Sora vibes um, accelerate or prolong the um, the slow decline change of social media as a you know let's call it salient platform, right? Like I I watched Stephen Hawking do a double backflip in the X Games in his
Wow,
wheelchair
he's so
over the
Some of
talented.
his best
weekend.
work. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, I watched Adolf Hitler win a UFC championship. I watched,
likely place for him to be among his
yeah,
You're
people.
so doomed. Everything's
well, that's what I
cooked.
mean, though. It's just like, and it's too bad that series producer Campbell is off mic in these sessions, because it would be interesting to have somebody at 19 be like, oh yeah, I can imagine that was funny, and I don't mean any of those things were particularly funny, but I'm just saying like the whole condition. It's funny. I'm interested. I want to watch more of this, or just like, yeah, I watched like four of those. The whole shit is cooked. I never
Well,
want to see
it's
any of these things
We
again,
don't
and
have
then just
media, we don't have
leaving.
literacy. We don't
that,
like, they don't
yeah.
teach media literacy. Like they didn't teach media literacy when I was a kid, and
Well, but
like the
I think
internet wasn't
there's
even
a
a like thing.
but that's it. There's an ineffable like quality of doomedness, to use your word, that comes from those videos. In my view, that
Hmm.
it doesn't require media literacy. It's just like, oh yeah,
Totally.
this sucks.
Well,
I, I,
it's
uh, it's sort of like and sorry to cut you off, Kyle, but it's a little bit like this, the famous quote attributed to Ed Ruscha, which is like, great art makes you go, huh, wow, not wow, huh. You
hmm
know what I mean?
Hmm.
right,
And this, like Sora vibes, it is all wow, huh, meaning it's not good.
right.
It's
Well,
like,
that's what I was going to say, is that like it's sort of, and I think this is obviously certain parts of the internet and certain communities and cultures, which I think we probably are part of, which is exactly what you're saying, Ben. Is like it it makes everything not fun anymore, and like it makes everything sort of like feel like shit, and like then you don't want to hang out there, and like if you get duped, you then also feel dumb, and like that's going to happen to enough of the people who do enjoy it, where it's like, this isn't fun anymore. Like I'm tired of every second of my day being April Fool's Day. But on top of it, it's this thing that I saw on Twitter. I don't, it was some random person who like was commenting on one of the like, Pikachu in World War II videos that was made with Sora. And it was like, you know 10 years ago, the novelty of seeing like a video of Breaking Bad doing Mario Kart was that somebody actually took the time to re-edit the show into something that made it new, versus this just sort of like regurgitating an idea that has no spirit, no sauce, no anything. And that's the other thing about it too, is like it's so hollow, and like and it really opens these doors to this shit culture. Like another example is like there's a trend happening on TikTok now, which is it's getting into concerning territories, is where people are making Sora videos of Jake Paul, noted, stand-up guy Jake Paul, putting on makeup, which has evolved into videos of him just saying like I'm gay and doing gay things. And he has started responding to those videos, parroting gay culture in a way that is homophobic. And so like it's entering this sort of space where like, it is unlocking things that we didn't need to unlock. We don't need Jake Paul using his platform to spread homophobia, which people started as a joke because he's noted tough guy. And like now it's like it is again like the end goal of a lot of AI in this sense is to create misinformation to sort of like advance agendas that aren't always the best. And that is like, unfortunately, like this is a good example of that coming to light. Like I don't think that there's any sort of duping or parody or like silly thing that's going to end up with someone be like, wow, I feel better now. You know what I mean? Like even like Katy Perry's mom thinking that she went to the Met Gala in some gown made of smoke. No, like the mom felt dumb, and like Katy had to like go on record and be like, guys, to media outlets, be like, I wasn't there. That's AI.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Nobody wins.
I mean, Mel, have you, to Kyle's question about, can any of it be used to make people feel good? Can you think of anything that sort of exists in that space that doesn't leave a kind of a saccharine taste in it? Because I'm thinking of like man rescues puppy, or man finds weird bug and raises it up like its own child, and then look at how cute this bug
Yeah,
became. But it's
the
all
bunnies on the
nonsense.
trampoline. Remember that
No,
one?
that's true. But
That
then people
was,
felt
but
dumb because they didn't know that it was AI. And
that's
then they were
true.
mad. But you're right. Like
I don't
that was
know.
But
like
that was like
Anybody
a
who's ever spending
rare,
time with bunnies
wholesome.
knows that they don't do that.
fair.
As a
Fair.
leading rabbit psychologist, I can tell you right now,
But I think
bunnies
also
do
Kyle
not do
Kyle
that.
kind of like touched on it. AI very quickly can be soulless. That's I think part of like the big response from the Studio Ghibli
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT stuff that was happening is the people that like loved that body of work and that style. They attached such a human artistic creation to it. And yes, we can get duped by AI. Part of the reason we get duped by AI is because it looks so real and we're consuming things on a tiny screen and it's moving so fast. Um, but I think, where was I going with this?
It's
Attention span of
okay.
a goldfish. I don't know.
I think
It'll kind
well,
of
I
come back to
think
me, might not.
yeah. I mean, I guess the interesting thing about all of this is trying to ascertain where it all leads, right? Like we talked at the beginning of this conversation about how a story about 1968 written in 1990 informs the realpolitik of 2025. The question is, where does this all take us, and what does it all ultimately mean? And to a certain extent, it's all kind of an exploration of like our existential relationship to being and consciousness. I think in a way that is uh it's deeply concerning because it is so totally unresolved, and because it is so totally elemental to everything that
Well,
we experience.
that is already like I feel like to what we talked about with One Battle After Another and Eddington, like that's already is inspiring a whole like sort of human made, let's say, more or less, like series of work that sort of are wondering that. Like I just started watching Alien Earth last night, and like even the first episode, you can get hints of that exact thing. It's sort of like, what is the end goal of this? And like I don't think this is a spoiler, but like there's different variations of like human technology, like from a true like cyborg thing to like these creatures or people who are like, were formerly humans that were put in a sort of like synthetic body. And like there's a question of like, is this a human, is this not? And so like
Right.
that is sort of like getting into a space, like not so subtly sort of like talking about these things, but like it is existing in a space that is beyond the things that we are talking about. And like I think it will be unsurprising to see more and more content and more fiction about that. Because like, again, like the reason why we're here is because of movies like Terminator 2 and movies like Her. And it's like, that's the thing that drives me fucking crazy, is that like the tech world isn't creative and they just are regurgitating ideas from media that were like critiquing tech, and then they just like, that was so cool, let me make it, or like just copying it because they couldn't think of another application. It's always been like, you make a robot, it's in human form. It's like, why are you making it in human form? That's so fucking clunky. You can make it in a form that is so much better and makes more sense for its tool or its utility. That is like the influence of media, which speaks to the power of human imagination, et cetera, et cetera. But it's maybe that, funny enough, like these upcoming fiction works that are sort of critiquing and creating the end goal will sort of lead these horses to water of like where it's going to go, which I don't think is going to look anything pretty. Could be wrong.
Yeah, when I look into my crystal ball about the many futures, I get stressed. But then I also kind of remind myself that like some of these things are like just historically accurate to the human experience. Like if you go back far enough, we've always been worried about the newest technology. We've been murdering people that aren't our kind in mass. So, you know, if the future progresses, but humans are still doing human things.
Right.
Gosh.
Fair.
Well, that I think is a very true statement and also a very apt point to wrap on for this episode of Hip Replacement. Mel, this has been such a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
It's so fun to talk to you both, and I've got a long list of books and movies to read now. So
Same.
thank you.
Well, I mean, listen, if you're going to start with, this is advice for you and for everybody else. If you're going to start with Pynchon, start with Crying of Lot 49 rather than with like Vineland, which is 900 pages.
Oh,
So, or something
you
like
already
it.
unsold me on that.
Yeah. Crying of Lot 49 is short though, and it's good. All right. Well, Melissa, where do people find you outside of here on the pod with us?
I mean, great question, because I used to say I'm on every corner of the internet, but I'm not anymore. My safe place online is Substack, so you can find me at Closing My Tabs on Substack. Alternatively, if you Google me and you see my name somewhere and it's a place you hang out, like
You have
I'm
a very
cool with
easily
that.
Googleable name.
Yeah,
Thankfully.
that's, you know, everything in life can be a blessing and a curse. My
Right, I was
last
gonna say.
name, a bit of a curse, but also very easy to find. The other
Oh,
day I went to go pick up a package. I didn't have ID. I said, I can spell my last name. That worked. That
oh my
worked.
God. There we
Wow.
go.
But yeah, I hate saying this, but I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram and Substack.
I don't think there's any
Same.
shame in there's no
That's the
shame.
one
There's
out.
no shame.
Well, it's just, I mean, maybe another episode for another time, but I just think like LinkedIn has just become, pardon my French, like just a circle jerk of like AI slop. And so anytime
Yeah.
a real human posts a thing that interests them, I think we're changing the culture. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
This is
be the
it.
change you want to see in the
Incremental-
world.
We're gonna change LinkedIn one post at a time.
We are.
All right. Well, anyway, great to talk to you guys, Kyle. As always, we do this every week. We record on Mondays. It comes out on Tuesdays. And big shout out to series producer Campbell, who always gets us up online. So like, subscribe, share with friends, all of that kind of fun stuff. Look for Melissa at Closing My Tabs on Substack. Look for Kyle at The Trend Report, aka 1234 Kyle 5678.substack.com. And I am at sic.substack.com for the weekly sick update. So anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. Kyle, Melissa, till next time.
Drink water
See.
and touch grass.
Yes.
Right, fair enough. Raw dog life. All
Raw
right.
dog it.
Bye, guys.